Welcome to the second session of Geopolitics Decoded, rapid fire series with scholars and practitioners in the field of international studies. Today, we are extremely honored to host Dr. Vivek Mishra, the Deputy Director of the Strategic Studies Program at Observers Research Foundation, a distinguished expert in US foreign policy, Indo-Pacific security, and India-US strategic relations. Today, we will be discussing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United States, a pivotal moment in India-US relations, marked by strategic dialogues, defense and economic agreements, as well as high-profile engagements. Dr. Vivek Mishra will be joining us online today. To begin, the first question is, how will India address concerns over the new reciprocal tariffs imposed by the United States?
See, the concerns over reciprocal tariff, of course, are there. But the good thing is that the Trump administration has put in place a team to study the chances of a BTA, which is a bilateral trade agreement, and given it a set of deadline, which is about until the fall of 2025, which is a very tight deadline. So I'm assuming there is expectation that we might come up with something more fruitful before the fall or by the fall of 2025.
Absolutely. Moving on to the next question. How would you describe Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump's chemistry in one word?
I think bromance is a little overused. I would use strategic brotherhood. And so if you talk about the personal chemistry, I think strategic brotherhood, or as they call in short, strat-bro, is really cool.
That's quite an interesting take, sir. Next question would be, what was the most crucial advancement in defense and strategic cooperation during this visit?
I think the most would see the developments in the Indian Ocean region, the announcements made in the Meta's cable, information cable, the undersea cable, plus the 6 additional Poseidon P8Is, and the F-35 deal, which I think has been thrown in on the table as a shock and awe strategy, have all been seen important in the context of India-US strategic ties. But I think, to my mind, the Indo-Pacific bit is really important if you look at the developments, particularly mentioned in the joint statement regarding the Indian Ocean. So how would you characterize the current state of India-US relations in light of this recent visit? I think it's a step up. If you look at the Global Comprehensive Partnership, which had been the framework, and if you look at, in particular, this security aspect of the defense relationship, there was a framework which was guiding this bilateral relationship. It has been a step up in that framework in the sense that the major defense partner status, which was conveyed to, which was attributed to India during Obama's term, has been now weaved into the 10-year framework. So it'll be interesting to see what it means and how it unravels in terms of strategic technologies and new channels in critical and emerging tech. So that I think, to my mind, is really special. Absolutely. So the phrase "Make America Great Again" clubbed with "Make India Great Again," resulting in "Make Earth Great Again," was widely discussed. Perhaps does this reflect a substantial shift towards in bilateral ties? So I think it's both. It's part symbolism, it's part substance. Symbolism in the sense that it's a wordplay, and it certainly means that both the countries, and particularly India, is ready to work with a nationalist America while being in many ways nationalist about its own strategic interests. So a combination of a nationalistic America and a self-reliant nationalistic India will certainly mean great for both the countries, because it allows both countries to develop internally while collaborate externally. So the US offering F-35 jets to India, according to you, sir, do you consider this as a genuine upgrade for defense, or this is just another geopolitical carrot?
See, the offer on the table was a shock and awe strategy, which Trump uses for bargaining. I mean, the announcement, if you look at the joint statement, it does mention fifth generation aircraft, but it does not necessarily mention F-35s. So let's take a step back and wait, because it might be it depends on what India wants and what Indian armed forces want. And mind you, the F-35s are the most expensive systems in fighter aircraft right now. So whether you need it, and what if you don't, if you really need it, what are your options? And if you don't need it, then what else could you do with that amount of money? Could be much more in terms of impact than F-35. So those are a few thoughts on F-35. But it's certainly a shock and awe strategy by Trump.
So the next question is, how will the approval of the 2611 accused extradition impact the Indo-US counter-terrorism strategy?
Significantly. I think it's been in the wait for a long time. The extradition of the Vodana is a major inflection point in counterterrorism or cooperation between the two countries. And I think India and the US moved a couple of steps closer to a consensus on the definition of terrorism. That comes with a caveat that at the international space, the consensus on defining terrorism is a major ask. And I think by collaborating so closely on issues like this, I think a bilateral consensus on counterterrorism will grow stronger from here.
In one line, sir, do you really think India and the United States can deepen their economic cooperation in the realms of energy, critical technology, and connectivity, especially during escalating tensions due to high tariffs?
I think so. I mean, if you look at the natural trends of bilateral relations, it is moving in that direction. So you look at the value chain shift in the value chain, shift in the supply chain. Look at the Quad, the 16 working groups of the Quad, all are working towards moving in a direction where critical and emerging tech becomes the real basis and the tenet of bilateral relationship, because the next decade or a couple of decades will be defined by how the two countries cooperate in the critical and emerging tech. And I think there is a clear recognition of that fact.
Absolutely. So India has long relied on Russian military hardware. So does this visit then signal a slow but inevitable shift towards US defense technology?
I think the two are unrelated. There is a recognition that India has to develop its ecosystem in the defense industry with a self-reliance stress. And therefore, it could mean that we are weaning away from our reliance on all external players and not just Russia. So I think it's the drivers of this change are more internal than external. And in the process, certain elements of compulsion like threats on the border, etc., could compel your companies and the governments to buy certain things in certain direction and certain points at certain points of time. But I think the drivers of this change are internal rather than external.
Elon Musk called Prime Minister Narendra Modi a visionary leader. So according to you, do you think this was just a diplomatic courtesy, or does Elon Musk genuinely consider India as Tesla's next big market?
That's for Elon Musk to really say what he meant by that. But I think if you look at as a business conglomerate, Tesla is definitely looking at India as a major step up if it happens in the Starlink sector, in the internet sector, in the space, in the satellite sector, in the car manufacturing sector. And that has been, he's looked at India, which is a major market in the world today, still close to Tesla. So it means a lot for him to gain access to it. But remember that this government, which is this government in India, is pretty clear about manufacturing in partnership with local companies. So Tesla can come and have dominance. Is not a structure that we can work with. Tesla can come and work with companies here. I think that's a model that we are looking at, if at all.
Yes. Defense, technology, energy, and trade was the single biggest win for India from this visit.
Has to be a combination of all three. If you look at trade, it's the BTA, the possibility of a bilateral trade agreement. If you look at strategic partnership, the MDP has been weaved in a 10-year framework. If you look at the critical and emerging tech and the developments in the Indian Ocean and the Indo-Pacific, there is a resounding emphasis on the importance of the Indo-Pacific security and the China challenge. So I think it has to be a combination of all three, and one cannot be weaned away from the other, especially in the age that we live in.
So the final question is, President Donald Trump aims to reduce the US trade deficit with India. So do you think this can result in a more balanced win-win partnership, or is it more about America's win than it is about India's benefit?
I think, both countries, as I said, are nationalistic about their own interests. And I don't think there will be, India could maybe a little conciliatory on India has to be a little conciliatory on certain aspects, because we have a tremendous trade surplus with the United States. So I think the Trump administration might ask India to be to waive off certain tariffs, to give larger market access to India. I think those are part of the deal. But I think overall, if the two countries have designated 2050, I think 2030 as the year by which they will double the number of the trade between the two countries to 500 billion, then I think it's a win-win for both sides.
So that brings us to the end of the rapid fire series. I would like to express a heartfelt gratitude for the opportunity to be asking you these questions. And I also thank the audience for joining. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That was really a rapid fire. All the best.
Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.